In Liza B, there are 8 Legion arms, including the default one. These are prosthetic arms that give you different abilities depending on which arm you select. The grappler arm shoots a grappler, the fire arm shoots fire, you get the point. While playing this masterpiece, I couldn't help but notice certain similarities. Immediately, I knew I had to beat Elden Ring as Pinocchio from Liza P, my first cosplay run in a while. Let's jump into the rules and then the run. First off, I need to thank and credit this YouTuber, Goldhand, for creating this spot-on Elden Ring face model with the character sliders, and for also letting me use it. Check this channel out, it is super cool. Lucky for me, Elden Ring has a pretty well represented outfit for the Liza P setting, containing the prisoner garb and the page boots. I assigned each arm in Liza P a gauntlet and an ability. These abilities are what I think most accurately represent each arm. The normal arm is Malenia's gauntlets with the ability to punch with the cestus. The grappler arm is the Vagabond gauntlets with the ability to use a whip. The electric arm is the white reed gauntlets with the ability to use the lightning bolt incantation. The flame arm is the dragon gauntlets with the ability to use the fire splash incantation. The spike arm is the eccentrix manchet gauntlets with the ability to use the rock sling incantation. The inflicted arm is the bull goat gauntlets with the ability to use the poison mist incantation. The shield arm is the Ronin gauntlets with the ability to use a small buckler. And lastly, the gun arm is the beast clergyman gauntlets with the ability to use the jar cannon. Now, in Liza P, you can only use one hand to wield your weapon, so I must follow that rule here too. All Legion arm abilities will be put in my left hand, and for the main hand, I decided to pick what best fits the theme for Liza P, and chose the scimitar. I also forced myself to apply the Parry Ash Award to the scimitar, because parrying is a big part in Liza P. Finally, I made it part of the rules that I must parry only Morgot. I don't know why, I just felt like it. Oh, and Gemini must be equipped during the run using the lantern, cause why not? I mean, he's a big part of Liza P. Anyways, apologies for the long intro, consider subscribing, and without further ado, here's how the run went. To save everyone's time and to honestly make things interesting, I logged into my main account which had every single item I needed. I met with a friend at the Church of Ella and dropped all my equipment. Afterwards, I chose the warrior class for scimitar, selected the golden seed as my keepsake, and headed out towards Limgrave. By selling all my equipment besides my sword and using the free rune on the ground, I have just enough to buy a summoning tool. Here I summoned my friend and had him drop all the equipment I needed. Everyone make sure to give him big thanks. Since I used a non-somber weapon, I needed to collect a bunch of materials. Through Limgrave, Liurnia, and even Altus Plateau, I gathered tons of sacred tears, golden seeds, smithing stones, bell bearings, and runes themselves. I didn't need to worry about the Legion arm just yet, as I was preparing to parry only Morgot. Using some of the runes I gathered, I purchased the Parry Ash Award from Bernal. I also grabbed my physic and some weak but useful tears to use. I couldn't kill Grail easily without a bleed weapon, but I could cheese the Knight's Cavalry for some runes to level up and upgrade my scimitar. For my last bit of preparation, I equipped the Dragon Crest Shield Talisman for some extra defense. Part of the reason I completely overprepared here was 1, to deal as much damage when getting the riposte, and 2, to be able to tank lots of hit from failed parry attempts. Most of my parrying experience comes from DS1, which has by far the easiest parry windows in the Souls series. Elden Ring works weirdly. It's like you have to parry right before you think you should. All my Dark Souls instincts wanted me to parry the actual connection from the weapon to myself, but it didn't work like that. Also, this has to be one of the coolest animations in the game. It didn't take many staggers or many attempts to kill Morgot. For Godric, I decided to go to the upgrade bench and modify my Legion arm to the default, or in Liza P terms, the one where you punch people. I did mess up here a bit. The default arm was supposed to be Malenia's gauntlets, but I accidentally equipped the Vagabond gauntlets instead, which were originally set to be the grappler arm. Oh well, but hey, want to hear how I made my life even worse? Elden Ring has a normal cestus and a spiked cestus. The spiked one has the bleed status inflicted with it. I plan to use this against Godric, but I forgot they were separate items. Essentially, I whacked Godric for 3 minutes straight with a non-upgraded weapon, wondering when the bleed would proc. I really don't know why it took me so long to realize my mistake, but right before his second phase, it kicked in. And this made the rest of the fight a complete joke as I just obliterated the rest of his health bar. Godric down. Before moving to Rala, I decided to switch to the electric arm, which uses the white reed gauntlets. I then proceeded to kill the Langdale Knight in order to get a specific book. By giving this book to Corin, the incant dude at the Round Table Hold, I can purchase the Lightning Bolt incantation. The Lightning Bolt incantation is what I chose to represent the Shock Blast move in Liza P. After switching my setup, I was ready to go. First off, Pinocchio absolutely destroyed Rala. First I hit her with lightning. After this, she started summoning, so I backed up and used more lightning. Despite the summons getting in the way, this was highly effective due to Rala's arena being submerged in water. For the first time, I actually killed some summons to clear the arena, and eventually she was out of space and time. Rala down. I've defeated this boss countless times, and I actually know the Draconic Tree Sentinel's moveset very well. However, I have the Inflicted arm, so I grabbed the Poison Mist incantation, and I used this to represent the Corruption Spray move in Liza P. After crafting my arm, I simply waited behind the boss while occasionally using my incantation. Since this doesn't aggro the boss, I can just sit here and wait a few minutes. Easy kill. Next up is Godfrey, or at least the ghost version of him. For this fight, I went with the Spiked arm. I couldn't really think of a solid pick here to represent what this arm does in Liza P. Elden Ring and Liza P are similar, but Liza P definitely put a twist on things when adding stuff like this. I was ready for effective damage. Yeah, this spell is just not it. I'm sure there's some specific build to make it actually good, but unfortunately I had to rely on my sword for most of this fight. But this thing still has decent damage, despite this boss being somewhat in the mid-late game. And I know his moveset pretty well, so this was another easy fight. Morgot is up next, and I decided to use the Flame Arm for this fight, thinking it would be a pretty good option. Using the Dragon Gauntlets, I was really proud of how accurately this reflected the look in Liza P. Earlier I grabbed the book for this and purchased it at the Round Table Hold. With Godric's rune activated and Morgot's shackle, my plan was to stun Morgot and spray fire everywhere. I get I'm not running a fire-oriented build, but this damage is just incredibly bad. I guess it's time to use the Scimitar once more. I like Morgot's fight a lot, but I wish there was some more engagement between the player and the boss. It felt like the best strategy was to back away and wait for a few openings. I didn't get hit that much, honestly, but this fight was a long one. I was able to get a mix of slash and jump attacks, and then finish the fight off with some riposte damage, which was cool considering I had to parry only Morgot not too long ago. I had to do a little bit of preparation for this next one, being the Fire Giant. Firstly, I killed the Putrid Tree Avatar to get the damage reducing teardrop. I then set up for a journey to retrieve the Jar Cannon, the most accurate depiction of the hand blast mechanic in Liza P. I crafted the Legion arm with Bernal's gauntlets. Then I got the Strength Teardrop, the Strength Talisman, and reactivated Godric's rune art to meet the requirements for the weapon. Looking back, I do wish I used some runes to upgrade this thing. Time for Fire Giant. I had very little ammo here, so I tried to be careful. The Jar Cannon dealt decent damage here. I do think if this was upgraded more, it would have been way better, but I must have not had that many Somber Stones remaining. I also doubt this weapon would have been amazing in Phase 2. I used all my ammo and began slicing at his legs with my sword, but eventually I died. I woke up the next morning and easily took him down with just my sword. I have 9 flasks left by the end of this, so yeah, it went pretty good. The next minute, I burnt down the Erd Tree and woke up in Fair Missoula. Oh, and as a side note, before moving on, I collected as many cracked pots, Trina's lilies, and mushrooms to craft sleep pots for the upcoming boss. I proceeded to switch back to the Inflicted Legion arm, or the one that could use the Poison Mist incantation. I figured this would be a good plan for the Godskin duo, using sleep and then poisoning them right before they wake up. My first attempt went really well, until I failed to get the big guy to sleep towards the very end, leading to death. Luckily, the crafting materials for sleep pots are all over the Elden Ring world, so I regathered my supplies and tried again. My second attempt started really well. I was able to kill the first Godskin with just one sleep pot through the Poison Legion arm and some free damage during his roll attack. Despite the Scimitar being only wielded in one of my hands, I was shocked to see such a basic weapon perform so well this late in the game. The second Godskin was trouble, as I accidentally used the riposte attack, weakening the amount of damage I dealt. To make up for the amount of sleep pots I used here, I went for a stagger in the third Godskin. With this working, I was able to take down the boss shortly after. I can now upgrade my weapon even further with the bell bearing they drop. I was super conflicted on choosing what weapon or spell to use for the grappler arm, as it's just a super unique thing in Liza P. I thought about using some form of gravity spell since both pull enemies towards the player, but I chose the whip instead because it kinda looks like a grappler hook. I upgraded this thing to plus 22, which, looking back, I can't believe I did. I managed to do so through the Jar Cannon Legion arm, which let me take down a rune duplicator. I then also killed some bosses for bell bearings. Now, this is another reason why I'm just kinda weird. I upgraded this all the way to plus 22 and barely used it. I think as somewhat of a newer-ish YouTuber, I'm just still getting used to getting content while actually making content. I mean, I did try, but the whip just wasn't as good as my sword. Considering I am one-handing the scimitar and have branched my build to multiple Legion arms, I cannot believe how underappreciated these scimitars are. Although, that is probably just because there are weapons with the same moveset, except way better. It is safe to say I need to practice Malekith a little more, considering I only had 4 flasks left, but I hadn't played Elden Ring in quite some time when recording this. Malekith down. For Gideon, I decided to bring out the Jar Cannon Legion arm, but with a bit of a twist. I upgraded this to plus 9, expecting some insane damage. This damage it's okay. I want to say it's a lot, but for a weapon that takes so long to charge up against a guy who will dodge 90% of the time, I realized I made quite a bad investment. Using my sword here wasn't amazing either. Most bosses during this run only have taken me a try or two, but I died to Gideon quite a few times. My main strategy in the end was to get him stuck in a corner and hope my stamina was replenished enough to kill him. Man, I do not like this fight. Now you might think using the Jar Cannon Legion arm is a good idea for Godfrey, and you'd be right. But there is one more Legion arm I haven't crafted yet, the Shield arm. To give this arm more of a chance, I upgraded the buckler to plus 18. I knew it wouldn't do much, as I couldn't parry Godfrey with my shield or my scimitar. To my surprise, it prevented a lot of damage. It took a lot of stamina, but if Godfrey were to use a final attack in a chain of movesets and I messed up a dodge, I could always use this as a failsafe. To increase my health a little more, I killed the Felled Omen twins and switched Godric's Great Rune for Morgot's. Godfrey's fight was a constant fight of either myself performing very nicely timed dodging, or blundering and trading health. I went through a lot of jump attacks here, and they were the quickest attack that dealt solid damage. I even got a stagger from this in the first phase. Phase 2 went really well too. I managed to duck and weave through most attacks, and even get a full charged attack performed. I've learned the rare but recognizable openings during this fight, but I did get body slammed at one point. Last is the Elden Beast himself. Starting this off, I had no idea what Legion arm to go with, though I was confident I didn't even need one. I began testing multiple Legion arms, and one particular test I happened to just kill the boss. I wasn't planning on this at all, it just kinda happened. Out of nowhere I was like, oh, the boss is almost dead. The funniest thing is that this happened while I was testing the worst out of all my Legion arms, the one with the beast-style sling incantation. But out of all the bosses in this game, I know this fight really well. I was even able to get the final few hits with this stupid incantation. Pretty easy run. Yeah, it's been a while since my last video, especially one that involves Elden Ring. My videos just haven't been getting that many views, and with all the work I put into them, YouTube suddenly became much more stressful than fun. But after taking October as a bit of a break, I'm ready to upload again, and believe me, I have a lot of ideas piled up. One of the main things I was doing while I was gone is I played and beat the newer game Lords of the Fallen 2023. And man, I have a lot to say about that, so you can expect a video or two on it soon. But for now, thank you so much for watching this video. It feels really good to play this game again. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.